Okay, this is going to be one of the loonier things I've done recently. I have never cooked wearing a GoPro before, but here I am. So, this is how you make soda bread. Not the standard cake style of soda bread that we're all familiar with, but this is Farl, as they call it. It's a worn-down version of a word for cutting something in quarters. This is the way that a lot of people in Northern Ireland eat their soda bread. And since I have a Northern Ireland guy upstairs, we wind up eating it this way a lot ourselves. His dad used to describe it as the best way for people to eat butter without being seen to actually eat it with a spoon. So, first thing you need is a pound of flour. I have gone to the trouble of weighing it out already because, you don't want to watch me do that. But this is how many cups that turns into, because I know most of you are working in cups. So there's one, sort of two, come on, get in there, kind of three, and I don't know, do you think that looks like sort of half a cup? Yeah, kind of. That's a third. All right, let's see if we get, call it, yeah, that's 3 2/3 cups, 3 1/2, 3 2/3 cups. It's always a juggling act with this stuff. Now, that is sorted. Now what we do is we add the leavening ingredients. This is a soda-based flour loaf. So here is the soda. You just throw that in there, the baking soda. Because we're doing this without buttermilk, this one needs baking powder as well. The raising power of soda with sweet milk, as they call it here, is insufficient to bring the soda bread up. So that's the baking powder. The amounts are in the recipe. Don't ask me how much it is at the moment. I'm used to doing this by eye. That's the problem. Okay? About a teaspoon of salt. That goes in. And the possibly most important thing to do here is just stir. Just get all that mixed in there evenly so that the distribution is even. Now behind me, you can't see it, but behind me the griddle is heating up. This is a griddle bread. This is not an oven bread. You can do it in a frying pan. If you've got a heavy bottom frying pan and a burner with a good steady low heat, that's what you want. You round this up. You cut it in quarters. You put each quarter onto the griddle or into the frying pan, and you give them 20 minutes on a side. All right? So there's that. That's about right for that. Now we're just going to dump the milk in there. And ideally not lose the fork in the middle of it. Now, if this is going to look like a very wet, sloppy dough, that's okay. It's supposed to be. The idea with soda breads, because this is not a yeast-raised bread that depends on gluten, the idea with soda breads is to handle them as little as you possibly can, and let the soda and the, in this case, baking powder do their work without you toughening the bread up. This is not supposed to be one of those breads that you knead until smooth. If you do that, you're going to wind up with a hockey puck. So don't. Now, that's really very wet. And that's okay for farl and also for cake. It just needs to be sort of dry enough for you to handle without going insane. Okay, so that's very wet. Fine, I'm sure I don't care. Now, what we do is we make it a little bit more manageable by giving it a good bit of flour to work with. So what we're going to do is just dump this in here. And yeah, it's wet. Who cares? And yes, that is Riverdance you hear behind you. What else would it be today, for God's sake? Okay. Right. So now you just let it take up some of that flour. Again, handle it lightly. It's okay that it's really wet and sloppy and difficult feeling, and just knead it gently enough until it comes together. You can fold it once or twice if that makes you happy. There's no problem with that. Your idea is to make a round which has enough structural integrity for you to cut it into 4 pieces that you can then move to a solid surface and put on the griddle. I just heard a little ticking noise behind me that tells me the griddle is ready. Thank heaven. It's one of the best purchases we ever made. It's a George Foreman low-fat grill, but the griddle side of it is one of the best things for making soda bread that I've ever come across. Okay, that's enough. You do not overdo this bread. Now, there's that. Let me back away a little bit so you can see it correctly. Now it's time for the fright knife. And you cut it just very straightforwardly like that in 4. And then move it onto something flat so that you can get it to the griddle without too much ruckus going on. All right, so that's that. Okay, so I'm just going to move around now to the griddle, and here's the griddle. And now we just put the soda bread, and I'm hoping you're seeing this correctly because I've lost my monitor. Just put it on there. The griddle is sort of at a medium-high temperature, not too high. I mean, it's so hard to quantify these things. Okay, and now we start the timer. Where have I put the timer? The timer is here. Okay, 20 minutes, go. We'll come back momentarily. Okay, we're just checking in on this at the 12-minute mark, and you can see it's rising already. It's not a hurried rise with this stuff ever. But by 20 minutes, it will be more than enough risen for the side that it's on, and you'll get a further rise when you turn it over. Okay, let's leave it here for the moment. We'll come back shortly. Okay, we're kind of heading for T-minus 10 seconds here. And forgive me if the cooking timer makes a horrific noise when it goes off. Anyway, the job now is to turn these over without doing too much violence to them. Yeah, shut up. And try to keep them sort of vaguely in the same place where they are. The tops will still be soft, so you cannot manage them that way, all right? Just grab a spatula and kind of try to tip them over. Kind of like that. The bottom will solidify a little bit as it hits the heat. You don't want to turn them over too hard because you'll lose the rise. So let's see if we can get all these guys to go over. They sometimes stick together a little bit. You see how that was? It's perfectly normal. Ah! Okay, don't do that. There. See, they misbehave sometimes, but it's okay. Okay, that's not too bad. All right. And you see how nicely they've come up. Those are like about 1.5 inches thick, heading for 2 inches now. That's what you want. Ah, come on, behave. People are watching. Okay, so that's good. You see that kind of lightly toasty color? That's what you're after, really. And you want to give it another 20 minutes on the other side at the same heat so that you get about the same result. So let's start the timer. And we will come back in 20 minutes. Okay, the timer just went, and I didn't bother making you listen to that. And these are just fine. You see that level of brownness there? That's good. That's what you like. Peter likes it a little browner on both sides, so I'm just turning these over for his sake, and I'm going to kill the griddle momentarily, attempting not to destroy myself here. Yeah, it's fine. So I'm going to turn the griddle off now. Let it cool. When these are done, you put them on a plate, on a dish towel, and cover them up, and the steam percolates through them and softens this crust up a little bit, because so that's quite robust, that. So we'll come back to that in a moment. Right, okay. So when they've had a little time to cool down from hot on the griddle, just put them on a plate on top of a dish towel or something similar. Tea towel, as they say here. Pardon our grotty looking one here. They all look grotty, never mind. And just cover it up like that, okay? This means that the steam inside the bread will come through and soften up the crust a little bit. And ideally, you shouldn't eat them right hot off the griddle. You should let them settle for 20 minutes, half an hour before you actually tear into them. It improves the texture. Okay, we'll come back in 20 minutes, half an hour, and Peter will prepare one with raspberry jam and entirely too much butter, and I will fight him for it. Okay, bye.